You know what? There's a lot of bad going around when it comes to the Montreal Canadiens and how their season has gone on. We recently talked yesterday about Shea Weber and how Nick Kyprios' tweet had everybody up in arms about the possibility of Weber being forced to retire. However, the Montreal Canadiens came out, they placated our worries a little bit by saying that he will only be out 4 to 6 weeks. Then, later on in the day, it was tweeted out that Tomas Tatar was seen leaving the Boston game the other night with a hand splint. That was also reported. This one was by Eric Engels, and this kind of got Canadiens fans up in arms again, because, Weber's already out. He's going to be out for a long time. I swear to goodness gracious and the powers that be and everything that is almighty, if Tomas Tatar is injured too, there's nothing left. There is no more hope for this season, and we should just go tank for Lafreniere because we need to bring in some French stars and ones that probably will be very, very, very good. But you know who else has been very, very, very good? Let's talk about Nick Suzuki and just how good he has been. Because recently, they posted this on the Canadiens website. Nick Suzuki is the first Montreal Canadiens rookie forward to post 35 points since 2005-2006. Now, I initially looked at that and I was like, really? They haven't had a rookie forward post more than 34 points? In 14 years? Are you kidding me? But the article does have the details. Suzuki is indeed the last Canadiens forward rookie to post 35 points in a season since Chris Higgins, who was drafted in 2002 and didn't play until 2005-2006. So even just in the Department of Development, Suzuki is taking a big step over the guy who most recently put up 35 points as a rookie forward on the Habs. Higgins took 3 years of development from the draft year up until his first season in the league. Nick Suzuki was drafted in 2017, and he made the team 2 years later. Of course, he was drafted by Vegas, trade, Pacioretty, etc. You know what I'm talking about. But it's actually interesting to note that the Canadiens actually have had one other rookie player get 35 points in his rookie year. That was PK Subban, but he is obviously not a forward, so the article doesn't list Subban as one of those people. It talks about Higgins because he is the last forward. But Nick Suzuki is out here, probably as the limelight. What some people on Reddit are calling the light in a dark tunnel of this season. Because if you take a look at it, everything has kind of gone wrong for the Habs this year. Everybody who has been good has been injured at some point or another, some people even at the same time, and things couldn't have really been worse, especially with the Weber injury now, especially with the Tatar speculation about him having an injury, especially with Drouin missing an extended amount of time, Gallagher missing an extended amount of time. Everything has been bad. But the few things that have been good this season have been Carey Price's resurgence, which is not new. We see this all the time. Ilya Kovalchuk coming in towards the latter half of the year and being absolutely spectacular. And Nick Suzuki being good the entire year. Right now, Nick Suzuki has 36 points, 12 goals, 24 assists in 59 games. That is the same points per game as Max Domi. It's exactly the same. Domi is at 13 goals, 23 assists, and 36 points in the same 59 games. Now, you could debate as to whether or not that Domi stat is a little bit lower than what people have expected out of Domi. But nevertheless, Suzuki is literally at the same amount of production than the guy who led the Habs last year and who had 70 points. For a guy who is only 20 years old and who is 2 years removed from his draft, Nick Suzuki has honestly been so good, and I am very, very happy to see it. we saw the upward progression for Nick Suzuki from the Owen Sound attack over to the Guelph Storm. Just an absolute crazy OHL career for this young player. A guy who was able to go in there, work on all aspects of the game. When he was drafted, he was known as a high-octane offensive forward who could put a whole bunch of points up there, score some nice nifty passes, and do some really good offensive things. But in his second year after he got drafted, Nick Suzuki put a lot more focus on the defensive side of things. Working on things, working on his skating, working on all the other aspects that are separate from shooting and stick handling and passing and all that stuff. And that was a big improvement that people saw as the seasons went on. Once Nick Suzuki was in the playoffs for Guelph and he got 42 points in 24 games, the game that Nick Suzuki brought to the ice was so much different, much more polished, refined, and overall well-rounded than the game that Nick Suzuki had back when he was drafted. It's why Vegas, in my opinion, was so willing to get rid of Nick Suzuki, especially in that trade where they sent over Tatar and the pick for Pacioretty too. Nowadays, Nick Suzuki has been probably the most consistent forward on the Canadiens and is a guy who does much more than just put up the points. He's a guy who gets PK time. He's a guy who gets defensive zone coverage. He's a guy that Claude Julien has been trusting more and more as the season has gone on. And that's a very rare thing for Claude Julien. He doesn't really like to trust his rookies all too much. But for a guy like Suzuki who is so good defensively when most 20-year-olds aren't, he's kind of forcing his hand and saying, yeah, if you want to win hockey games, you kind of have to play me because I'm pretty good. This is why a lot of Canadiens fans I've seen have been bringing up the idea of whether or not you would trade Suzuki for Pacioretty straight up. Would you do that? Would you get rid of Nick Suzuki and get Pacioretty back? Because these two guys are in completely different worlds. Pacioretty, sure, he has more points than Suzuki does right now, but Pacioretty is also the age that Pacioretty is. Nick Suzuki is only 20, and he's only going to get better. So, for the Vegas Golden Knights, the guys who drafted Nick Suzuki, it was a very nice departing gift to see Suzuki, Tatar, and the pick, which eventually was traded to become Norlinder, on the Habs today. And it's kind of funny because the same rookie success that we saw with Jesperi Kotkaniemi last year is kind of being reflected in Suzuki this year. Now, I get it. Suzuki is 2 years older than Kotkaniemi. They don't have the same timeline. I get that. But doesn't it feel great to have two young guys, 20 and 19 years old, who could foreseeably form a really good 1-2 punch down the middle for the next 10 years? These two could be the main centers on the team, probably in like 2 or 3 years, and they're this good now. I know Kotkaniemi hasn't been amazing this year, but we've talked about Kotkaniemi enough where you probably know my thoughts about him. He's probably going to become really good. He was drafted 3rd overall for a reason, right? But these kinds of things are just the positives of the season, and I think it's so much more valuable for one's soul and one's self-esteem to just focus on the good things. Sure, Weber being out sucks. Sure, Drouin missing all his time sucks. Sure, this season kind of sucks because everybody is out. But watching all the good things, watching Cole Caulfield tear up Wisconsin, looking at the potential that he has and the potential that he would have beside a Suzuki or a Kotkaniemi, looking at these other great prospects in the pipeline doing their thing, looking at Suzuki on the main team doing his thing, it sets up a pretty good idea for the future. And Suzuki, with his 36 points at the moment, is indeed in the rookie scoring race. Now, I don't want to say that he's absolutely leading it because Cale Makar, Quinn Hughes, these guys, they do exist. But Nick Suzuki is 3rd right now. He just recently passed Victor Olofsson in the rookie scoring race, and I wouldn't be surprised if Suzuki got Calder votes, to be honest. Now, I don't think he wins it because Hughes and Makar, it's theirs to lose in my opinion, but Suzuki, in my opinion, is over Victor Olofsson. You can make a good argument as to why he should be over Kubalik. The only one who I really think he has to beat out is the goalie. Yeah, Merzlikins. I don't even realize if I pronounced that correctly, but Suzuki has been so good, he's in the Calder voting for sure. He will get a few votes. I don't think he wins it, but he's up there for a reason. First Habs rookie forward to score 35 points in 14 years. Hope you enjoyed this video, especially that Trust Line 9. And bye.